The ship moved through space with a gentle hum Vala had never felt before. The human vessel, Terra Nova, was unlike any Zalarian or Taraxian ship she had ever been on. It felt alive somehow with its soft lights and curved walls. Carla showed her to a room that would be hers during their journey. The space was small but private, with a bed, a desk, and what the humans called a bathroom. Vala ran her scaled fingers over the strange materials, still not believing her rescue. Sleep did not come easy. That night her body had been prepared for death and now struggled to readjust to living. The biological processes that had begun shutting down now painfully reactivated, making her skin itch and her head ache. Morning came according to the ship's cycle, and Vala found herself sitting in what the humans called a mess hall, a place where they gathered to consume nutrients. She watched fascinated as they ate together, talking and laughing, sometimes arguing, but always with an energy that was foreign to her structured Zalarian upbringing. Zoe, the science officer, approached with a tray of food specially prepared for Zalarian biology. Her dark eyes were bright with curiosity. "We analyzed your cellular structure to make sure this will be compatible with your digestive system," Zoe said, placing the tray in front of Vala. The food was a pale blue paste that smelled vaguely like the fruits that once grew in the royal gardens of Zalaria. "Thank you," Vala replied, still uncomfortable with how freely these humans offered assistance without expectation of payment or debt. This was not how the galaxy worked in her experience. Captain Reeves joined them, sitting across from Vala with her own tray. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight knot, and her uniform was spotless despite the casual atmosphere. "How are you feeling today, princess?" the captain asked. "I am not a princess anymore," Vala said softly. "My planet is conquered. My people scattered." "Captain," Reeves shook her head. "A title is not just about land or power. It's about responsibility. And from what we understand, you never stopped fighting for your people, even when captured." Vala looked down at her food. The human's understanding of royalty was strange to her. As a Zalarian royal, her worth had been tied to her bloodline, her genetic purity, and her ability to maintain control over her territory. Their concept seemed based on something else, something less tangible. The captain continued, "We're heading to a human outpost near the SETI system. It's outside Taraxian space and safe for now. There we can make contact with the remaining Zalarian resistance cells." But how, Vala asked. The communication networks were destroyed when the capital fell. Carla, who had joined them with her own tray of food, smiled. "The Taraxians control the main network, sure, but humans specialize in working around official channels. We have our ways." Vala noticed how the humans often smiled when discussing challenges, as if difficulties were somehow amusing rather than threatening. It was disconcerting but also strangely comforting. After the meal, Zoe invited Vala to the science lab. The room was filled with equipment, some familiar, some completely alien, just like the humans themselves I'd love. "To discuss your research on quantum biology?" Zoe said, her enthusiasm evident. "If you don't mind, of course." Vala hesitated. Her research had been meant for Zalarian advancement, not to be shared with other species. But these humans had saved her life, had offered help without demanding anything in return. It went against everything she understood about interspecies relations. Seeing her hesitation, Zoe added, "We don't expect you to share military applications or anything your people might consider sacred knowledge. Just the theoretical framework that might help us work together. Something about the humans' approach, their openness, their willingness to collaborate rather than conquer, was both confusing and appealing." Vala found herself nodding for the next several hours. She and Zoe exchanged ideas. Vala explaining the Zalarian understanding of quantum entanglement in biological systems, while Zoe shared human perspectives on similar phenomena. They spoke different scientific languages, yet somehow understood each other. The experience was exhilarating. Later, Vala joined Captain Reeves on the bridge. The command center of the ship was a busy place, with humans monitoring various systems. Yet there was no shouting, no threats of punishment for errors. Instead, the captain led with quiet authority, her crew responding with respect that seemed freely given. "We received a transmission from one of our contacts," Reeves explained. "A group of Zalarian refugees has been hiding on Proxima 3. Their leader is someone named Krell. Does that name mean anything to you? Vala felt her heart rate increase. Krell had been her father's most trusted advisor and a brilliant military strategist. He survived, she whispered. The captain nodded. We're changing course to rendezvous with them. It's a detour, but worth it if it helps unite the resistance. Why? Vala asked the question that had been burning inside her since her rescue. Why do humans care about Zalarians, about our fight? Captain Reeves looked out at the stars visible through the view screen. First, because the Taraxians won't stop with your worlds. They've already begun probing human territory. Second, because we believe all sentient beings deserve freedom. And third, she turned to face Vala directly, because sometimes helping others is simply the right thing to do. Such reasoning would be considered weakness in many parts of the galaxy. Yet these humans had advanced technology, impressive military capabilities, and a strength that came not from domination but from connection. It challenged everything Vala had been taught about survival in a hostile universe. As the day cycle ended, Vala stood alone in the observation room watching the stars streak by. The ship was traveling faster than light, physics bending to human ingenuity. Her reflection in the glass showed her scales regaining more of their purple luster, her body accepting that she would live. For the first time since the fall of her world, Vala allowed herself to think beyond survival. Beyond the next day, the humans had given her something precious, something the Taraxians had nearly taken away permanently. Hope. The journey to Proxima 3 took 3 ship cycles. During that time, Vala slowly adjusted to life among humans. Their customs were strange, their bodies fragile compared to her scaled form, yet their spirit was undeniable. She spent mornings in the science lab with Zoe learning about human technology, which approached problems from angles Xalarians had never considered. Afternoons were dedicated to strategy sessions with Captain Reeves, planning how to approach the scattered Zalarian resistance. Carla became something of a guide, teaching Vala about human culture. The concept of entertainment purely for enjoyment was foreign to Zalarians, whose art and music always served practical purposes of education or commemoration. You mean you create stories? That never happened about people who don't exist, Vala asked as Carla showed her the ship's entertainment database. Carla laughed. Fiction helps us explore possibilities, understand ourselves better, sometimes even prepare for futures that might come. Vala considered this. The idea of imagining what could be rather than accepting what is seemed fundamental to humans. This explained much about their refusal to accept defeat even against overwhelming odds. On the third day, the Terra Nova dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Proxima III. The planet was small, mostly covered in dense forests with scattered clearings. Too remote to be of interest to the Taraxian Empire, it had become a haven for those fleeing their conquest. Scans show a settlement in the northern hemisphere, Captain Reeves announced. No Taraxian signals detected, but we're maintaining phase shift. Just in case, Vala felt anxiety ripple through her scales. The thought of seeing other Zalarians after believing herself the last of her kind was overwhelming. What if they blamed her for their planet's fall? What if they rejected her leadership? Carla seemed to sense her distress, a skill humans possessed despite lacking the empathic glands Zalarians use to detect emotions. They need you, she said simply as they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the surface. You're the symbol of everything they lost and everything they might regain. The shuttle descended through wispy clouds, landing in a clearing near the settlement. No welcoming party awaited them, only dense vegetation and silence. Carla, Zoe, and 4 security personnel accompanied Vala from the shuttle. The humans moved with practiced caution, their weapons ready, but not aggressive. Their breathing controlled, their movements precise. Vala realized they had done this many times before. First contact was apparently a human specialty. They had walked less than 100 meters when the ambush came. Figures dropped from the trees surrounding them, silent and deadly as Zalarian warriors were trained to be. But these warriors stopped short when they saw Vala, her royal markings visible even through her borrowed human clothing. Their weapons lowered immediately, many dropping to one knee in the traditional gesture of respect. Princess Vala, a voice called from among the trees. A figure stepped forward, taller than the others, with scales the deep blue of Zalarian nobility. Krell. The advisor approached slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. Believed you executed your death was announced throughout the Empire. I nearly was, Vala replied, gesturing to Carla. These humans rescued me. Krell regarded the humans with suspicion. The stories said his trust had died with Vala's father during the final battle for the capital. Humans, he said the word carefully as if testing it. They are not known to us. Why would they help? Captain Reeves, who had joined them from the shuttle, stepped forward. The Taraxian Empire threatens us all. We propose an alliance, Krell repeated. The word seemed to amuse him. Xelaria is fallen. Our military destroyed, our technology seized. What can we offer an alliance? Vala watched the exchange, feeling the weight of her people's desperation. She had asked the same question herself aboard the Terra Nova. Why would humans help a defeated race? Reeves did not hesitate. Knowledge, experience, determination, she replied. And a shared enemy. The captain gestured to the settlement visible now through the trees. We didn't come to dictate terms, but to offer options. Krell studied the human carefully, then nodded. Follow me. The settlement was larger than it appeared from orbit. Nearly 300 Zalarians had made homes here in structures built from local materials, camouflaged from above. Children, something Vala had not expected to see again, played in protected areas, while adults worked at various tasks. They were escorted to a central building where other Zalarian leaders had gathered. The room fell silent. When Vala entered, many had tears in their eyes, a rare display of emotion for their species. Our princess lives, one elder whispered. The words spread through the room like fire. Vala felt unworthy of their hope, yet standing among her people, she understood what the humans had tried to tell her. A royal was more than a ruler. A royal was a connection to what had been and what could be again. The meeting lasted hours. Krell and the other leaders were skeptical of human intentions at first. As Zalarians, they had learned that offers of help usually disguised conquest. But Captain Reeves' patience never wavered. She explained the Earth Alliance's position, its resources, and its reasons for opposing Taraxian expansion. Zoe shared data on Taraxian fleet, movements, scientific assessments that showed vulnerabilities the Empire tried to hide. The humans' knowledge of their enemy impressed even Krell, who had fought the Taraxians for decades. When night fell, food was shared, a mixture of human rations and local provisions, creating a meal that symbolized their potential cooperation. Vala sat with Carla, watching her people interact with the humans. Initial wariness giving way to cautious conversation, even occasional laughter. I never thought I'd see this, Vala said. Her people had always been insular even before the war, believing contact with other species weakened their culture. What Carla asked, hope, she replied. My people are trained to accept fate, to recognize when a fight is lost, to die with dignity. Yet here they are. Carla smiled. The thing about humans is we don't believe in fate, we believe in choices. And sometimes the choice to keep fighting even when everything seems lost is what makes all the difference. Later, Vala was shown to a dwelling prepared for her, the first private space she had occupied on her own world since before her capture. Though simple, it had been decorated with symbols of Zalarian royalty, salvaged treasures that the refugees had carried with them across the stars. Krell visited her there, his usual formality softened by genuine emotion. We mourned you, he said. We performed the ceremonies, sang the songs of passing. Yet here you are, returned to us with allies from a world so distant we knew nothing of. Yet the humans are different, Vala said. They see strength in connection, not isolation. Krell considered this. Their ways are not ours. No, Vala agreed. But perhaps that is why they succeed where we failed. Perhaps there are lessons we need to learn if our people are to survive. Change does not come easily to Zalarians, the advisor reminded her. Nor does extinction, she replied, meeting his gaze directly. Which would you choose? Krell had no answer, but Vala saw something shift in his expression. Something that mirrored what she had felt aboard the Terra Nova. The first fragile beginnings of a different way of thinking. Vala woke in the medical bay of the Terra Nova. The ceiling above her was familiar now. The soft blue light designed to be soothing to most species. The gentle hum of human medical equipment monitoring her vital signs. She turned her head, seeing Carla, asleep in a chair beside her bed. The human looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her uniform rumpled as if she had not changed in days. Vala tried to move, felt pain in her shoulder, but less intense than before. Carla opened her eyes immediately, alert. "Welcome back, Princess," she said with evident relief. "The doctors said you'd recover, but it's been 3 days." 3 days. Vala repeated, her voice hoarse. How Carla helped her sit up, offering water from a container designed for Zalarian physiology. "The Taraxian weapon damaged some neural pathways," she explained. "Our medical team worked with your Zalarian healers to repair the damage." Vala drank the water, her mind clearing as hydration restored her cellular functions. "The mission?" she asked. "Successful. Beyond our expectations," Carla smiled. "In fact, you better prepare yourself. You've become quite famous." Before Vala could ask for clarification, the medical bay door opened. Captain Reeves entered, followed by Zoe, and surprisingly, Krell, the Zalarian. Advisor looked different somehow. His posture less rigid, his eyes brighter. "Princess," he greeted her formally, then broke protocol by taking her hand. "Your message spread across 17 systems before the Taraxians could block the transmission uprisings. Have begun on 6 worlds. 3 Taraxian governors have already been overthrown." Vala tried to absorb this information. It seemed impossible that one broadcast could have such immediate effect. The captain gestured to a view screen on the wall. "Activate. News summary," she commanded. The screen lit up, showing images from across the galaxy. Crowds in the streets of worlds Vala recognized. Some Zalarian, some other species, all previously under Taraxian control. In many places the Imperial flags were burning. Being replaced with symbols of local governance, Taraxian troops were shown retreating from some smaller outposts, consolidating their forces. But most shocking was her own face, appearing repeatedly in the transmissions. Her message played on loops, shared from person to person, world to world. The princess who returned, they were calling her. "I don't understand," she said. "How could this happen so quickly?" The Taraxian Empire was already fragile. Captain Reeves explained. Their expansion stretched there, resources thin, their control maintained through fear, not loyalty. Your broadcast was the spark, but the kindling was already there, and the human fleet, Vala asked. Remembering the ships she had glimpsed before losing consciousness, Krell answered that question. The Earth Alliance had been preparing for confrontation with the Taraxians for some time. Your rescue. Your message provided the perfect opportunity to reveal their presence. A show of force at a critical moment, Vala looked at Carla. You knew not everything, Carla admitted, but I knew there was more to the mission than just the broadcast. The captain shared that information on a need-to-know basis. Captain Reeves approached Vala's bed, her expression serious. The situation is evolving. Rapidly, the Taraxian Empire is facing internal conflict for the first time in centuries. Their military still poses a significant threat, but they are responding reactively, not strategically. What happens now? Vala asked. That, Reeves said, depends partly on you. Krell stepped forward. You have become a symbol, princess, not just to Zalarians, but to all who resist Taraxian rule. Your words, your very existence inspires hope. The alliance we are forming with the humans gives that hope. Substance, Vala closed, her eyes feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her again. Different from before. Not the burden of maintaining tradition or preserving bloodlines, but the challenge of creating something new. When she opened her eyes, she asked to see the settlement on Proxima 3A live feed appeared on the view screen. The settlement had changed in the short time she had been away. New structures were visible with designs that blended Zalarian efficiency and human aesthetics. More significantly, the population had grown. Other refugees had found their way there, drawn by rumors of safety, of resistance. And something else caught her eye. A large building under construction in the center of the settlement. Zalarians and humans working side by side. The design was unlike anything on her homeworld or Earth, a true hybrid of both cultures. The Alliance Council headquarters. Zoe explained, our governments felt a neutral location was important for the new coalition. Vala repeated, not just humans and Zalarians. Carla said, the broadcast has brought others to our cause. Species who suffered under Taraxian rule, who want freedom but lacked the means to fight alone. The coalition is forming faster than anyone anticipated. Vala thought about what this meant. The old Zalarian way would have been isolation, rebuilding their strength, focusing only on their own survival. But that approach had failed before. When can I leave the medical bay? She asked. The human doctor who had entered during the conversation frowned. Tomorrow at the earliest, your neural pathways are still stabilizing. Not soon enough, Vala said with determination. She turned to Captain Reeves. I need to address the coalition, while the momentum is strong. The captain nodded, understanding the urgency. We can bring communication equipment here for the next several hours as her strength returned. Vala worked with Krell and the human officers drafting agreements, protocols for the new alliance each species would maintain, its sovereignty but commit to mutual defense, technology sharing and resource allocation. The coalition would not be an empire, not a force of conquest, but of protection, ensuring that all member worlds had the freedom to develop according to their own cultures. When Vala finally addressed the representatives who had gathered on Proxima 3, her voice was strong, her vision clear. She spoke not as a princess of a fallen world, but as a leader of a rising alliance. The Taraxians believed that diversity was weakness, she told them, that conformity was the only path to strength. They were wrong. Our differences, our unique perspectives and abilities, these are our greatest assets. The humans have shown us that adaptation is not surrender, it is evolution. The response was overwhelming. Representatives from a dozen worlds pledged their support. Resources began flowing to Proxima 3, the settlement growing into a true city, a symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. In her private moments, Vala still felt doubt. The path ahead was uncertain. The Taraxian Empire, though wounded, remained powerful. The coalition fragile in its newborn state. She stood in the observation room of the Terra Nova watching the stars. A familiar presence joined her, Carla leaning against the view screen, her reflection showing a tired smile. Having second thoughts, the human asked, Vala considered the question. I was raised to believe in certainty, she admitted. To know my place, my purpose, my destiny. Now everything is possibility. Nothing is guaranteed. Carla nodded, understanding without needing explanation. That's how humans live all the time, she said. Every day is a choice, every path a risk. It is exhausting. Vala observed. Carla laughed, but also exhilarating. You get to choose who you become, what your people become. The future isn't written anymore. The future isn't written. Vala repeated the words, feeling their truth, their liberation, their challenge. The Taraxian Empire had taken her world, her position, her certainty. But in return, though they never intended it, they had given her and her people something precious: freedom. Not just from external control, but from the limitations of their own traditions, their own expectations, their own fear of change. Transmission alert sounded, Captain Reeves' voice coming through the communication system. Princess Vala, to the bridge, please. The Taraxian Emperor is broadcasting. Vala and Carla hurried to the bridge. The main view screen showed the face of Emperor Drax, leader of the Taraxian Empire. His chitinous features arranged in the formal expression of imperial authority. In response to recent events, the Emperor announced the Empire will be implementing reforms in outlying systems. Greater autonomy will be granted to local governments. Imperial presence will be reduced in systems that maintain peace and order. The bridge crew exchanged glances. It was an unprecedented concession, a clear response to the growing coalition and the uprisings across Taraxian territory. They're afraid, said Zoe. The coalition has changed the equation. It's a beginning, Captain Reeves acknowledged. But only that. The real work is just starting. Vala watched the Emperor's broadcast, noting the careful wording the attempt. To maintain authority while making concessions, she recognized the strategy had seen it in Zalarian history, when powerful houses faced challenges to their rule, small concessions to prevent larger losses. But she also saw opportunity. The Emperor's words created space. Breathing room for the coalition to grow stronger, for more worlds to join without immediate military confrontation. She thought of the children on Proxima 3, playing games that blended human spontaneity with Zalarian precision, creating something new, something neither culture could have imagined alone. Whatever came next, whatever challenges they would face, that image gave her hope. Not the restoration of what was, but the creation of what could be. Vala, the Zalarian princess, who had bowed her head to die, now stood tall among the stars, her future unwritten, her path chosen, not fated. And beside her stood humans, not saviors, but partners in a journey neither species could complete alone. The Terra Nova moved through space with its phase-shifting technology active, making it nearly invisible to Taraxian sensors. On the bridge, Vala stood with Captain Reeves watching the main view screen as they approached the gas giant. The relay station, orbiting its second moon, was now visible, a stark metallic structure against the swirling colors of the planet. Scans show minimal defenses. Zoe reported 3 patrol ships and standard security protocols. They aren't expecting trouble here. The station was far from the Empire's core worlds, used primarily for maintaining communication networks rather than military operations. Still, the danger was real. Taraxian soldiers would be present and alert. The mission has 3 phases, Captain Reeves reminded them, her voice calm despite the tension. Phase 1, we approach using phase shifting to avoid detection. Phase 2, the insertion team enters the station, locates the broadcast center and prepares the message. Phase 3, we broadcast and extract before Taraxian reinforcements arrive. Vala nodded. The plan was sound in theory but depended on speed and surprise. The team consisted of herself, Carla, 2 human security officers named Grace and Petra, and 3 Zalarian warriors, Lyra, Min, and Tiro. Each had been chosen for specific skills: Lyra, for her knowledge of Taraxian security systems, Min for his communication expertise, and Tiro for his combat abilities. They gathered in the shuttle bay for final preparations. The humans checked their weapons, strange devices that fired energy pulses designed to incapacitate rather than kill. The Zalarians adjusted their phase suits, modified human technology that would allow them to shift partially out of phase, making them harder to detect. Carla approached, Vala offering a small device. This is a neural dampener, she explained. It will mask your brainwave patterns from Taraxian scanners. They might be looking specifically for Zalarian royalty. Vala accepted the device, attaching it behind her ear where her neural cluster was most active. The technology felt strange but not uncomfortable, another example of human ingenuity adapted to Zalarian biology. Ready, Princess? Carla asked. Vala had asked the humans to stop using her title, but Carla continued. It had become something between them, almost a nickname rather than an acknowledgement of status, as ready as one can be for potential execution. Vala replied with grim humor. She had learned this from the humans, this ability to joke in the face of danger. Carla's expression softened. That outcome is not in our mission parameters, she said, echoing Captain Reeves' standard phrase. The shuttle departed the Terra Nova, its own phase-shifting systems active. They approached the station from below using the moon's natural radiation to further mask their signature. The journey took less than an hour, but to Vala it felt much longer. Her scales itched with anxiety, a biological response she could not control. They docked at an emergency airlock, rarely used and not heavily monitored. Using Vala's royal codes and Lyra's knowledge of Taraxian security, they bypassed the first level of defense, entering the station without triggering alarms. The corridors were narrow, dimly lit with the red glow Taraxians preferred. Their eyes, adapted to the dark moons of their homeworld, were sensitive to brighter illumination. The team moved quietly, Carla in the lead, her scanner checking for life signs. First Patrol 3. O'clock, Carla whispered. The scanner showed Two Taraxian guards approaching an intersection ahead. The team pressed against the wall, activating their phase suits. The technology was not perfect, could not make them completely invisible. But in the dim light, it might be enough. The guards passed. Within meters, their attention focused on their routine patrol. Not on the shadows that seemed slightly darker, slightly more solid than they should be. When the patrol had passed, they continued moving deeper into the station. The layout was familiar. Tuvala Taraxian design was consistent across their territory. The broadcast center would be near the core, protected, but accessible a door blocked their path. Min stepped forward, connecting a small device to the control panel. His fingers moved quickly, bypassing security measures. The door slid open, revealing a maintenance tunnel rarely used but providing direct access to the station's central sections. They crawled through narrow spaces designed for mechanical drones, not humanoid bodies. The humans struggled more than the Zolarians, their skeletal structure less flexible. The tunnel ended at a ventilation shaft leading down into what their scans identified as the broadcast center. Carla peered through the grating. 5 Taraxian technicians, she reported, all focused on their consoles. No obvious weapons, but standard issue. Sidearms on their belts. Vala nodded. This matched their intelligence. The broadcast center was not considered a high-security area. The Taraxians, confident in their control of their empire, had grown complacent. Grace removed the grating silently, while Petra prepared stun charges, small devices that would temporarily incapacitate the Taraxians without damaging the sensitive equipment on 3. Carla whispered. Her fingers counted down. The team dropped into the room simultaneously. The Taraxians had no time to react before the stun charges activated. The technicians collapsed, their nervous systems overloaded, but not permanently damaged. Mine immediately moved to the main console. Tiro and Lyra secured the door while the humans checked the unconscious Taraxians, removing their weapons and communication devices. We have 10 minutes maximum before someone notices the broadcast center is not responding, Carla warned. Vala joined Mine at the console. Her royal access code still functioned to oversight in the Taraxian security protocols. They had been so certain of her impending execution, they had not bothered to remove her authorization. The system accepted her biometric scan, recognizing her as Zolarian royalty authorized to issue emergency broadcasts. A screen appeared ready to transmit. Vala took a deep breath. What she was about to do would change everything. There would be no possibility of anonymity after this, no chance of quiet survival. But perhaps that had never been her destiny. She nodded to Carla, who activated a recording device. Vala stood straight, her posture formal. Her scales now vibrant purple with the distinct markings of her lineage clearly visible. I am Princess Vala of Zolaria. She began, speaking clearly, despite the fear coursing through her. My death was announced by the Taraxian Empire. Yet as you can see, I live. The Empire lied, as they have lied about many things. She continued speaking, of resistance, of hope, of the possibility of freedom. She revealed the alliance with humans, showing that the Taraxians were not invincible, that help could come from unexpected places. She called upon all conquered peoples, not just Zolarians, to remember their dignity, their right to self-determination. As she spoke, Mine was programming the broadcast to reach every communication device in Taraxian territory, every view screen, every personal communicator, every public announcement system. The message would be impossible to miss, impossible to completely suppress. Even if they cut the transmission partway through, some would hear, some would know. Warning, intruder alert. Lyra called from the door. Security systems have detected us. How long? Carla asked urgently. Min checked the console, broadcast at 40% coverage, expanding. We need at least 70% for optimal impact, Vala said, continuing her message even as tension mounted. The sound of boots in the corridor outside grew louder. Taraxian security. Responding to the alert, Tiro and Lyra positioned themselves on either side of the door. Weapons ready. 60%. Min reported, his fingers moving rapidly across the console. Trying to bypass security lockouts, the first blast hit the door. The metal glowed red but held. The Taraxian security forces had arrived. Petra and Grace took positions behind equipment providing covering fire if needed. Vala spoke faster, completing her message urging unity, action cooperation. The broadcast reached 65%. 75-85 broadcast complete. Main announced the message had reached across the Empire, from the core worlds to the furthest outposts. Billions had heard the voice of a princess thought dead seen the proof of Taraxian lies. Time to go, Carla ordered. The door would not hold much longer. The team gathered at the ventilation shaft, their exit route. The humans went first, then the Zalarians, Vala last. As she reached for the shaft, the door exploded inward. Taraxian soldiers pouring, through weapons ready. Vala felt something hit her shoulder. Pain bloomed hot and sharp. A Taraxian energy weapon had caught her. She stumbled. Carla, reaching down from the shaft, caught her, pulling her up as Tiro provided covering fire. The team moved through the maintenance tunnels faster now, stealth abandoned in favor of speed. Vala's injury slowed them, blood seeping through her phase suit, each movement sending waves of pain through her body. Taraxian security followed, alarms blaring throughout the station. The team reached the emergency airlock where their shuttle waited, but soldiers were approaching from multiple directions. They were surrounded. This was not in the plan. Vala thought hazily through the pain. The mission had always been high risk, but escape had seemed possible. Now, with Taraxian forces converging, they faced capture execution, the failure of everything they had worked for. Then something unexpected happened. The station's lights flickered. The artificial gravity fluctuated. Security doors closed randomly, trapping some of the pursuing soldiers. The Terra Nova, Carla explained with a grin. They're hacking the station systems, creating chaos. The distraction was enough. The team boarded their shuttle, disengaging from the station. As weapons fire glanced off its hull, the small craft accelerated away from the moon toward the waiting Terra Nova. Dawn on Proxima 3 brought a sky streaked with orange and purple. Vala stood outside, watching the settlement come to life. Her people moved with purpose, their movements efficient, their cooperation instinctive. Yet something was different. Children played a game they had learned from the human security team. A simple activity involving a ball and rules that changed with each round. It seemed chaotic, unstructured, yet the children laughed with abandon, their scales bright with excitement. A small Solarian girl noticed Vala, watching, her head tilted in curiosity, before she approached, offering the ball with a formal bow. The traditional gesture of presenting a gift to royalty. Vala hesitated, then took the ball. The child waited expectantly. Vala realized she was meant to throw it back to continue the game. Something so simple yet so foreign to her upbringing, where royal children were kept separate, taught dignity and restraint. Not play. She threw the ball. The child caught it, her inner eyelids blinking in delight before running back to her friends. Vala felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. The human's approach is working with the children, at least. A voice observed. Krell had joined her, his expression thoughtful. They adapt quickly, accept new ideas without question. Is that bad? Vala asked. Krell considered. The old ways kept us strong, kept us pure. But the old ways also failed to save us from the Taraxians. Perhaps adaptation is necessary now. Their conversation was interrupted by Carla, who approached with a datapad. This just came in from Earth Alliance headquarters, she said. Human scout ships have reported Taraxian patrols increasing along the borders. We're not the only ones forming new relationships. A council meeting was called immediately. The human officers joined the Zalarian leaders in the central building. Zoe displayed holographic maps showing Taraxian fleet movements. They're consolidating their conquered territories, Captain Reeves explained. But they're also probing alliances, testing for weaknesses. It's only a matter of time before they discover this settlement. We should evacuate, one of the Zalarian elders suggested. Find another world further from their patrols. Running didn't save us before, Krell countered. It only delayed the inevitable. Vala studied the maps. The Taraxian strategy was familiar to her. The Empire always followed the same pattern. Conquer, isolate, absorb. She had studied their tactics since childhood, prepared to face them as ruler someday. A role she had never gotten to fulfill. An idea began to form in her mind. Something that went against Zalarian tradition, against everything she had been taught, but something that might work precisely because it was so contrary to her people's nature. "What if we don't run?" she said, all eyes turning to her. "What if instead we make ourselves visible?" The room erupted in protests. The Zalarians instinctively rejected such a dangerous proposal. Captain Reeves, however, was watching Vala. With interest explained, she said, "When the noise subsided, the Taraxians believed they destroyed our will to resist." Vala continued. "They think any surviving Zalarians are running hiding. But what if we show them they're wrong? What if we strike back? Not at their military, which would be suicide, but at their propaganda." Carla leaned forward, her eyes bright with understanding. "You want to show the other conquered worlds that resistance is possible?" "Exactly," Vala said. "The Taraxians rule through fear, through the belief that resistance is futile. But if we demonstrate otherwise, it's too dangerous." Krell interrupted. "We have children here, families. The few warriors who escaped, we won't risk the settlement." Vala assured him, "I was thinking of something more symbolic. A message that cannot be ignored." They spent hours debating possibilities. The humans offering technological solutions, the Zalarians strategic knowledge of Taraxian systems. Finally, a plan emerged, one that would require both human ingenuity and Zalarian courage. The Taraxian communication network spanned their entire empire. Broadcasts were controlled centrally. Messages of conquest and dominance transmitted constantly to all conquered worlds. What the Empire did not know was that Vala, as royal heir, had been given access codes to override emergency broadcasts. A final resort never used during the war. Zoe believed with human encryption technology and the Terra Nova's phase-shifting capabilities, they could approach a Taraxian relay station, hack into it, and broadcast a message throughout the Empire before the Taraxians could stop it. "It will be dangerous," Captain Reeves warned, looking at Vala. "Your face is known. Your continued existence alone would inspire rebellion." Vala nodded. The risk was enormous. If captured, there would be no rescue. The Taraxians would ensure her execution was very public and very final. But the potential reward, "My people need more than survival," she said. "They need purpose. A reason to continue fighting." The planning took another full day. Krell selected 3 Zalarian warriors to accompany Vala, each skilled in different aspects of their technology. Captain Reeves assigned Carla and 2 security officers to the mission. The Terra Nova would transport them to the relay station located on a small moon orbiting a gas giant near the border of Taraxian space. As preparations continued, Vala found herself drawn to the settlement archives, a small collection of salvaged data crystals containing Zalarian history, literature, scientific knowledge. All that remained of a civilization thousands of years old. She found what she was seeking, records of the ancient wars that had eventually united her world. Long before space travel, her people had fought amongst themselves, nearly destroying their civilization before finding a path to peace. These records, rarely studied in modern times, contained wisdom from a desperate era. That evening she sat with Carla, sharing what she had discovered. Our ancestors faced extinction. Once before, she explained, not from outside conquerors, but from their own divisions. They survived not by military might, but by adaptation, by changing the very foundations of their society. Carla listened, as she always did, with full attention. "Your people united under the royal bloodlines." "Yes," Vala confirmed. But before that came something else. A recognition that survival required cooperation, that strength came from unity. The royals were chosen for their ability to embody these principles, not simply for their lineage. That truth was lost over time. "What are you thinking?" Carla asked, sensing the direction of Vala's thoughts. "That perhaps my people's salvation lies not in restoring what was, but in creating something new." Vala replied, "Something that takes the best of Zalarian tradition but isn't bound by it. Something that might incorporate what we've learned from humans." The morning of departure came too quickly. Final preparations were made, equipment checked, plans reviewed, Vala dressed. In a modified version of her royal attire, symbols of her lineage visible but adapted with elements of human design, a physical representation of the message she hoped to send. The small team boarded the shuttle that would take them to the Terra. Nova Krell stood at the edge of the landing zone, his expression solemn. "Return to us, Princess," he said formally. Then added something unexpected. "Be careful." The personal concern behind the words was a departure from traditional Zilarian restraint. Vala touched her forehead in the royal gesture of acknowledgement, but then reached out and grasped his arm in the human style of connection. The advisor blinked in surprise but did not pull away. As the shuttle rose above the trees carrying them toward the orbiting Terra Nova, Vala looked down at the settlement. Already it was changing, a hybrid of Zilarian efficiency and human adaptability, becoming something neither culture could have created alone. Whether she returned or not, she realized her people would survive. They were learning the most important lesson the humans had to teach. Not their technology or their tactics, but their fundamental belief that the future was not predetermined, that it could be shaped by choice, by will, and by hope.